tonight, what we're going to do, it's not going to take too long, but I want to show you how I've made this shaker pocket. I don't know how other people do it, to be honest with you. I'm going to show you the way that I do it. So we're going to make that shaker pocket. I want to talk to you about a way to attach charms. And I know Mel's knocking about because one thing that, if you haven't realised about Mel, is Mel Pickering is my best mate, but also she makes the most beautiful charms. She's actually a jewellery baker, but she makes the charms for all of my scrapbooks, and I cheated on this one because we ran out of time, and I just put some ribbon on. But I want to talk to you about different ways of attaching charms to the books, and I thought it would be nice to have an expert here, you know, about charm making and ways that we can do that. So Mel is knocking about somewhere, and you'll find that she's an absolute wealth of information when it comes to making charms for your books. So I want to get the shaker pocket done, and then I want to show you what we're going to do next week, because I asked you about nesting dies, and I want to show you why, because I've actually made a bit of a prototype. So we'll do that last. Right, so first thing, we are going to make this shaker pocket. Now basically all it is a frame. Now I use 2mm thick chipboard, so, or grey board as we call it here in the UK. So I've got some A4 sheets here, but these are 2mm thick. They're quite thick, and what I do is I cut them up, and I sandwich them together, cover them in paper, pop them onto my book, put my stuff inside, and then I put some acetate on top and make a frame to go over so that it hides all the bad bits. But if you have a look here, you can see that I've got my pieces of chipboard that I've actually covered there with paper. So that's what we're going to do first, is actually cut the chipboard out. Now, chipboard. I think you can probably use thick foam, craft foam for this as well, although it will be a little bit squidgy. So do bear that in mind. But I have always used chipboard. But this is thick. 2mm is too thick to go through my trimmer, to be honest with you. Although I hear talk that 2mm will go through the other precision. I don't know. But it certainly won't go through mine. But I prefer always to cut these by hand. Now, that's all very well, but shut up. He's scared because it means a knife. But cutting this by hand it's hard work. It is a workout on its own. So I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks to make it less hard on yourself. So what we're going to do now, look, I've got my safety ruler. Yeah, get your husband to do it is a good way to sort this. Do you want to do this?
No.
Oh. So I'm going to make my pocket this big. You can make your pocket big enough to do the whole front cover. I've definitely done that before on books. But this one I just made a little bit smaller for some reason that seemed like a good idea at the time. I can't remember. So I'm just going to remeasure this. So my shaker pocket is 5.5 inches by 7 inches. So I'm going to just measure this now out on my board, and remember, you're not going to see this, so it doesn't matter if you draw on it in pen, because you're just not going to see it. Now I'm hoping, well, I know that this is big enough that I can get both pieces out of one piece of A4. So that's my 7 inches, and that'll make it easier on the cutting as well. By, what did I say, 5.5 inches?
Yep.
5.5. So that makes 11, doesn't it?
Yes.
I must have thought about this. That must be why I did it smaller. So 5.5 by 11 inches. Right. So measure that out first. I'm not going to bother doing a line down there because I don't need to. Second tip of the day is make sure you have a new blade in your knife. You need a really sharp blade, really important. A blunt one will not cut it, for want of a better description. Literally. It just won't do the job. So I have lost my cutting mat, so I'm going to cut straight onto this, which is great because I've totally wrecked it cutting onto it the other day. So safety rule, very important. This is dangerous. Knives are sharp. Use a safety ruler. Use PPE. Just be very, very careful, because ladies, I'm not joking. you can cut the top of your finger off. Yes, I have. Yes, I kept it for my scrapbook. That's a whole other story. But please, please, please take super good care of yourselves. This is dangerous. Right. So, how am I going to do this without hurting my wrist? I've got my knife. I've got my safety ruler, please note. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut without too much pressure. And I am going to keep going backwards and forwards over that cut line lots and lots of times until I cut through. And I'm just going to keep going without too much pressure so that I don't hurt my hands and I don't hurt my wrist. And you will know when you go through because it will suddenly spring away. So keep going until you've cut through. It's nearly there. Until you've cut through. Okay? Just keep going. Little and often is the key here. Alright? So I've cut that. Now I'm going to cut it down. So once again, I'm lining up the marks that I made. I've got my knife. I'm not pushing down hard. I'm saving my wrist. And I'm just going to do lots of little strokes until I get the size that I want. Little and often. Don't press down too hard. You will damage your wrist and your hand. You have to give it a degree of pressure, obviously, but not so much that it hurts. Nearly there. Nearly there. Don't worry about jagged edges. We'll talk about those in a minute. Okay, so final cut. And there we go. So what's going to happen is we're now going to cut these into a frame and we're going to place them one on top of the other. And for some absolutely bizarre reason, they're not even the same size. How the heck can I have done that?
Your first line was wonky.
My first... You didn't think to tell me?
I did tell you.
You did tell me. I wasn't listening. Story of our marriage, isn't it? Right, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to measure this so that I'm making a frame. So the other one's too big. Do you want to cut a bit off it? Can you cut me that to be 7 inches? You can't. You can borrow my knife. It's about 1/8 of an inch too big.
Can you give me the other one?
Which one? That one. Sorry about this. This is why I married an engineer.
Nothing to do with love.
No, nothing to do with love. I just, you know, needed an engineer in my life. Can I have the other one back?
In a moment.
Just talk amongst yourselves a moment. So, don't forget to send me the photos of your book.
It's a nice knife. This is good.
I know it's a nice knife. It cuts.
Can I have it for my toolbox?
No, you can't have it for your toolbox. What I want you to do now with your grey board frame is I want you to measure 3/4 of an inch all the way around. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the middle. Thank you, my darling. Oh, you're a star. Brilliant. Is that straight? Oops, that's me in trouble. Okay, I can say what I like because I bought the bread pudding, so you know he's beholden unto me now. So I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to draw that because, like I said, we're not going to see this. It doesn't matter. I just need to know where I'm going to cut. Next time it's wonky, will you say a bit louder? And I'm just going to measure there. And this is more like 7 inches than it was when I did it. Okay. 3/4 of an inch. So, I don't know why I'm using a gel pen. Not helping, it's not drying. Okay, so what I've got there is I've got a frame of 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And what I need to do is cut that out without cutting into the frame. You can cut a little bit, you're not going to see it, we're going to cover it, but it helps if you don't kind of cut into the frame, if you see what I mean. Right, I'm going to do this side while I'm here. So 3/4 of an inch. I know I'm concentrating because I can feel I'm sticking my tongue out between my teeth. Before Mark says anything, I know I'm doing it. Concentration. Okay, and I'm going to draw exactly the same frame on the other one. And that's at 3/4 of an inch. So, what I need to do is cut that out. And it's exactly the same procedure. I'm going to line up my knife. Oh, don't do it like that. I'm going to line up my knife and I'm going to go down my ruler. And I'm going to use shallow strokes to cut through my grey board. And I will feel when this has gone through. And I can always check
the tabletop will stop.
The tabletop, yeah. Okay. I'm going to need a new one for next week, dear. I could feel that I've actually cut that through. So I'm going to do the other side in exactly the same way. Okay, and I think that's gone through. Yep. Do the same at the top and the bottom. And if you're not counting the number of steps you're walking in the day, this is another great way to get some exercise. Okay, final cut. There we go. Now, it is quite likely that I won't have cut through at the corners, so I'm just going to push those. All right, so there is my frame. Simple as that. Now, if I've got some squidgy bits at the end, one of the ways that I find that I can get rid of them if I want to, because we're going to cover this so you're not going to see it, but if that bothers you or you want to tidy up the inside of the frame, because the trouble with grey board is that it's built in layers, so if you don't quite get your cut right sometimes it'll almost shear off. So if that's the case, all you need to do is get a nail file or some sandpaper and just sand the edge, and that will give you a really smooth edge. Now we're going to cover ours with paper, but if you wanted to just paint it with an acrylic paint, you can absolutely do that, and that's where, you know, using a sandpaper around the edge will make you a really nice finish to adhere your acrylic paint to. So if you've run out of paper, like I haven't got any left big enough to do this, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to show you in a minute, really. I'm going to have to find a way to bodge it. I think I'm going to have to use some white card. Actually, I might just use some printer paper. You can always paint it, perfectly acceptable. Bit of a laborious job, but so worth it in the end. That felt like it had gone all the way through. Yeah. Nearly done, dear. Still got all my fingers.
I'm not looking.
Wouldn't that be funny if I chopped one of my fingers off live?
Oh, yes.
Oh dear. Stranger things have happened. Now, to be honest with you, if you're going to cut safely, I'm inclined to tell you to make sure that you always keep your ruler onto the board. So rather than do it the other way around, you get a much better hold on the board because you're holding it down with your ruler if you do it this way round.
No slippage.
Yeah, no slipping. It gives you a much better grip, much safer. Right, I think that's it. Okay, and I'm just going to pop that out. That was easy. It's not always that easy. Okay, so another top tip for you. I keep all of my chipboard offcuts because I use it instead of foam pads, because to me it gives you a much more, if you're layering stuff up, which I often do, especially on the front of books, you'll see here I layered up some of the die cut ephemera. I use chipboard to layer it up rather than foam pads because I just like the solidity that it gives you. So keep these because they're useful. Right, so now I need my glue. Which I think I've nearly run out of. So let's hope this works. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some glue around the edge of my frame. And I'm going to sandwich these together. I am going to put them with the drawn bits together. Okay, don't worry if it doesn't quite, if you've got the odd bit there, it won't matter. Right, okay, so that is the frame that we put onto our book, and this is where we put all the nice little goodies. So I'm going to see if I actually have got a piece of paper big enough left. I don't think I have, but you never. Oh, that's close. It might work. Let's have a look. Do I chance it? Yeah, I probably do. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on my frame. And I'm going to glue this down onto my paper. I'm not that worried about it because I'm not going to see it particularly. It's just to make sure that the book's tidy. So I'm going to place that so that I have got a degree of space all the way around my frame. I wouldn't want it, there's about ½ an inch there. I really wouldn't want it any less, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and trim off that bit of excess, not very tidily. Okay, so I need to be able to fold this middle bit here over there and that round there so that I can cover up my actual frame. And the easiest way to find doing this middle bit is actually to use my knife to cut into that corner, and then it's almost like a sort of, I suppose, a reverse mitre. So I'm going to cut it at an angle. I'm just going to use my knife here, very loose and not done very properly. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm just going to cut the centre out of that piece of paper, okay? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this paper and I'm going to fold it around my frame like that, so that this bit inside here is covered, just in case you see it when you lift the book up, and the outside of my frame is covered, but I've got quite a nice tidy covering there. We might get a little bit of a gap in the corner. If you want to put a bit of paint in there just to cover up the grey board, feel free. You're not really going to see it, but you are going to know that it's nice and tidy. So I've tidied up I've made sure that my paper knows where it's going. I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape like we did when we first made the cover of the book, just so that that paper will stick in the right place while I've got the wet glue drying. And I'm going to put a little bit of wet glue, and I'm going to fold that piece of paper over, and I'm going to stick it down to the frame like that. Okay, I got paper cut on my finger and it is driving me nuts. So same on the other side. Train my paper where I want it to go. Little bit of double-sided tape. Mine's got cat hair on. I don't know if yours has. Not complete without cat hair. Fold that over. Same again. There and there. This might be a bit long. It is really. So I'm just going to cut that off a little bit. We don't want it to go too far over. So there we go. Train my paper. Ooh. Little bit of wet glue. And fold that over there. Last piece. Bit long. Fold that over and stick it. Now you see it, I've got a nice frame for my shaker pocket. If you look closely, I don't know how well you're going to see this, but if you look closely in here where I've cut that, I've got a tiny little bit of the grey board showing. Now my screen is a little bit behind. I'm talking and the screen that I can see is a bit behind where I am, so I'm not quite sure what you guys can see. So I'm just going to pause a minute. Oh, Claire, what great advice. Really? Chapstick. I'll give that a go. Good point, Claire. Sue. Burnish, absolutely. I'm all for a bit of burnishing. Hi, Jan. Claire, I'm going to do this and report back. Oh, hi, Anne. You can see here that I've got a little bit of a gap showing. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if it bothers you, you can always put a little bit of you know, paint or whatever there. So now what we have to do is fold over these bits. So this is one occasion where I tend to cut up to the corner, because you know when we put our covers on I don't cut right up to the corner, but this one I will. Okay, and we're going to train our paper over, burnish it. I don't even know where my thingy is. I've lost it. My boner. I've lost my big boner. It's disappeared. So I'm going to do the same. So I've folded that into position. Little spot of double-sided tape. Glue. And I'm going to fold that over so that I get a really nice sharp edge, tidy edge, and we're covering up that grey board. so you can't see it. Do you know, I said I had a snooze earlier. I had the weirdest dream. Is anybody else sleeping in the day and having, or even at night actually, and oh, I hope you can't hear, that's a cat, and having the weirdest dreams. They're just totally bizarre. They make no sense whatsoever. Right, a bit of glue. Fold it over. And now the last one. So it doesn't have to be tidy on the back because we're not going to see it. Okay. It doesn't feel like it's stuck down very. Yeah, that's a good idea, Jane. Yep. Using a pro marker around the inside and outside edge and just cutting away the excess paper. Absolutely. Oh, Louise, I remember a lot of mine and some of them are weird. Is Mel still here?
She is.
Because I told Mel about one of my dreams once, and I don't think I've ever lived it down. I'm not going to tell the group what I dreamt about. If you want to know, you'll have to message me because I can't talk about it in public. No, there was nothing going on with Jason Momoa or anything like that. On the contrary. But yeah, I have some very weird dreams. Right. Okay, so there's my frame. If it'll stick, which it won't. No, Ellie, it didn't. Bizarrely. Let's just say it involved me. Well, best not. It involved me becoming male in a most peculiar way. It's great. Right, okay, moving swiftly on. Now, I can attach this to the front of my book. So I'm going to pop it there. Now, if you want to, and if you remember at the very, very beginning when we started making this, I said I wasn't that bothered about what paper I had on the front because I've got a cunning plan for mine. But you might decide that underneath your shaker pocket, you want to put a particular piece of paper. Okay? So it might be a particular favourite piece of paper. I'm pretty certain, yeah, on this one, on my Bloom Street book, I actually matted some pink paper down on the back of this before I glued it down. Now, I've got all of these nice... Hi, Larissa. These little cards, which I'm hoping, yes, will fit rather nicely in there. Because I've used them through my book. Oh my goodness, if I'd even pretended to do that, been determined to do that, I wouldn't have done it so well. Right, I'm just going to pop a little spot of glue around the edge there so I can glue this down. Ooh. Okay. Right. Oh, miss. I'm just going to get that into place there. Right. So now my shaker pocket has got a background to it. It's also got an awful lot of glue to it, which I absolutely don't want because all my pretty sparkly things will stick to it. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Right. So now I'm just going to take some wet glue. I'm going to attach it to the back of my pocket.
Where did you get those cards?
I got them from Amazon. I just thought they'd be nice to go with my papers because there's no cutter parts on the papers that I use, and I do like some nice cutter parts in some books. I've got quite a lot of glue on there, but I've used them inside, so I cut them down and used it. Oh, I haven't done my homework. Really sorry. They're just postcards from Amazon, but I've used them throughout my book because I kind of liked them, and I deliberately saved this one for the front. So now I am going to attach this to the front of my book, and I'm sorry guys, but I'm going to have to lift this book up to see what I'm doing because I want to centre it top to bottom and side to side. Okay, so that is now the front of my book. And I'm going to glue that down. Now ideally I would be inclined to leave this a little while before I do any more. So what I might actually do is just pause a minute with something heavy on top of this, just to, oh, just drop the phone off, just to weigh it down a little bit, and I'll show you what we're going to do next week. Right, because I'd like that just to have a little bit of sticking before we go any further. So I asked you if you'd got nesting dies. The reason that I asked you if you got nesting dies is because I thought that it would be really cool next week if we just do something quick and easy when you haven't got lots of time to make a big book. Maybe you haven't plucked up the courage to make a big book yet. You just want to do something quick, easy, and something that everybody can do. Now I've used nesting dies on mine, but I've made two, both with nesting dies, but one shows you quite clearly what you can do without a nesting die. So here is what I've done. I have made a couple of little mini books. So if I turn this over, you'll see the shape of my nesting die. Okay, so a nesting die is a die that is the same shape but different sizes. So I've got the large one there, a smaller one there, smaller there, smaller there, smaller there, and I've deliberately left the back blank so you can see what I've done. All right, and then I've just decorated the front up with bits and pieces. Just a quick and easy way to make a really cute little book that we can give away. Now this one, this nesting die was a rectangle with a rounded edge. So if you don't have nesting dies, you can make this, and I'll give you some measurements so that you can just cut out your pattern paper a rectangle and round the edge, and you can do it perfectly well that way. I'll give you some measurements, I'll do you a resources list, but all you need to do is just find, I did this with one piece of double-sided 12 by 12. You can use several pieces of 12 by 12 if you want to, you know, like use up your scraps and stuff. But you just need pieces of paper that are big enough for your nesting dies. And then I used odds and ends of my papers and did some fussy cutting, and so on and so forth. So I just looked at ways, oh look, my butterflies come off. I just looked at ways that you know, I could use up my scraps. And I don't think that we use our nesting dies often enough. I've never been a card maker, so I've had to find inventive ways of using you know, things that I've bought, like the nesting dies. And this was just, I thought, you know, a quick and easy way of making you know, a cute little book. So you're just going to need to gather some 12 by 12s. You're just going to need to gather some of your favourite embellishments. I've cut bits out, I've cut stickers out, I've used embellishments from all over, sticky brads, you name it. Okay, and then you can either use a ring to attach it all together like I have, or you can use ribbon. It looks really lovely if you attach it with ribbon. So that's what I thought we'd do next week, because it's quick and easy, and we can just, you know, make pretty things. So in time for class next week, what I'm going to want you to have done is actually to have cut out if you're using your nesting dies, but we'll worry about that. I've taken some photos today, and I will put those in the group tomorrow with the resources list, but that's what I thought we could do. Right, okay, let's see how this is getting on. So now what I need to do is attach my acetate. So I'm just, oh, it's covered in cat hairs. And when I say covered in cat hairs, I mean covered in cat hairs. If you've got one of those anti-static things, it might be worth using. So I'm just going to measure what size I want. I'm going to cut my acetate at 5 1/4 by 6 3/4 inches. Oh, there's a cat down here. So 5 1/4. What did I say? 5 1/4 by 6 3/4. Darling, are you any good at getting rid of cat hairs? You're good at cleaning stuff. Can you have a look at my acetate? Right. Okay, so while the man in my life is happily, oh, not done there, is happily getting rid of that, I'm going to find some bits to go into my shaker pocket. So, because my book's all wintry, I got some snowflake confetti, and I found some loose little tiny pearl beads that I thought might be nice and would look like snow. And I've got a few of these little, these are, if Sue Cass is here, she'll know what these are. I've got some, thank you dear, I've got some little, you know, those little table diamondy things. These are actually off the tables at our wedding day. I've kept them all this time. Right, so that acetate's going to fit nicely on there. So I'm just going to now put what I want into that gap there. Ooh. Give it a bit of colour. I don't know whether these little gems, these little table things, yeah, they're going to fit in quite well. So I'm going to put a few of those in as well into my shaker pocket. So I've got quite a lot in there, but that's okay. You can put in cardboard die cuts. They're sometimes quite good to fit in. Cat hair is particularly useful, I find. All sorts of bits and pieces. Right, now we have to attach our acetate. And I would thoroughly recommend 2 ways to do this. Number 1, red tape. Number 2, glossy accents. I haven't got any red tape, but I did have some new tape that I haven't tried yet, which is supposed to be quite similar. So I don't know whether it's going to work or not. We'll see. Polyester ultra sticky tape. So I don't know if this is going to work or not. No idea. It seems to have stuck to the packet all right. Ah. Oh, it is very sticky. So I'm going to grab my piece of acid. Oh, it's still covered in cat hairs. And I'm just going to attach this to my book. But I'm going to attach it right up to the edge there, because the last thing I want is my sequins disappearing under my acetate. You just don't want that to happen. Now I'm just testing this tape because I haven't tested it before. But glossy accents isn't a bad idea. And if you rough up the edge of your acetate, if you can work out where it's going to go, that'll give you quite a good adhesion as well. This is super sticky. Right. So I just want to make sure I've got a really good... Oh, I don't know where my bone folder is. How could you lose something that big? I must use the edge of my scissors just to make sure that that is stuck down really well to the edge of that shaker pocket. Let's take off that tape. Let me decatify this. It's alright, it's just cat hair.
They're jumping off you.
I know, well I know. Oh well, mine's going to have cat hair for posterity. And I'm going to lay down my acetate over the top of my shaker pocket. And I'm going to make sure that it's stuck down really well. Okay, and there, ooh, look at that, there's my shaker pocket. Now, this isn't finished because I want to make that look tidy. Okay, it's not tidy looking as I would like. So, what I did here was I cut a frame out of my black card, my base card, and then just to leave a little bit of an edge because I just like that look. And then I cut a frame to go in the middle, to go over the top with my pattern paper. And I know I haven't got enough of this left. So I'm going to have to bodge it a bit. But I made sure that my frame was 3/4 of an inch wide again, so that it ever so slightly goes past that edge there. Okay, now we haven't got huge amounts of time left, so I'm just wondering whether or not we're going to have time to do this. But I think you're all capable of cutting yourself a frame, aren't you, and then attaching it over the top of this. And then I'm going to do some die cuts. I've got some lovely new dies. I bought these the other day. So I'm going to make some foliage to go around mine, and I'm going to put some of this foliage throughout the book as well. So I'll finish that off, and I'll take lots of photos for you. But just finally, I want to talk to you about attaching charms to your book. Now, like I said, my lovely Mel makes lots of charms for me. If you, I'm just trying to think, I've got some right in front of me that we've just been using. Hang on. Here's an example. This is one that she's made for a very big book that we're making at the moment. But it just shows a really easy way that you can attach a charm to your book. So if you don't want to damage your book by putting, you know, your hanger right through, I've brought a couple of other things upstairs to show you so that you can see how you can also do this. This is the non-invasive way of attaching a charm to your book. So I don't know if you know this about binder clips, but they come apart. So I can take the, is this a jump ring, Mel? I can take the jump ring of Mel's charm, take off this leg of my binder clip and just slip that through there, and then reattach my binder clip leg just like that. And now my charm is securely attached. It's a lot easier than trying to fiddle around with jump rings, okay? So I can attach this to my book now simply by clipping it. Folding down at the top there, and that is just one way to attach your charm. If you don't like this bit that's showing, split ring. Thank you, Mel. See, she's the expert. If you don't like this showing, there's room to put a little bit of ribbon through, so put some ribbon through, tie some rings. Yes, like a key ring. So you can just, if you don't want to take your binder clip apart, you can just roll it round. But I haven't got any nails, so it's easy for me to take that clip off. So that's one way that you can attach your charm to your book. But really quick and easy way to do that. So the other ways are actually a little bit more invasive. So I know that you will have seen these, but smaller. And I know that Tim Holtz does something very similar. I've just got some big ones that I need to put on the website actually. But these are jump rings, brads, that are quite large with large rings, so they will hold a substantial charm. Okay, and you can just make a hole in your book, put that through, throw the legs through there and attach that. Now I made a mistake here because I did this after I'd put these strips of paper in between my pages. I don't mind that look because you don't really see it. But if you're a perfectionist, you might decide that you want to do your attachment before you actually put these strips on in between the pages of your book. So this is another way that you can do it. Tim Holtz, as I said, does some really small ones, but I saw these big ones and I thought, oh, I'm having me some of those. I haven't tried them yet, but you can. So this particular attachment that I've used, I have no idea what it's called. I just call it a charm hanger, but this is one that actually screws into your book. So it's actually got a screw on it that can you hear Loki? I don't know what he's going on about. So that will just go through, make a hole in my book, just go through and then screw it in. And then I've got this ring that I can either attach my charm directly to through the split ring, as I now know it's technically called. Or what I did with this was I added one of the hinged ring clips and I just tied ribbon to it. I tied ribbon, I attached some tassels that I tied very badly with string, and I made some little like tags that I attached. This is what you can do if you don't have a Mel in your life. I recognise how lucky I am to have her. Yeah, that's just another idea for something that you can do if you need a quick and easy way to put something really interesting on your book. Or of course you can just leave it completely blank. It's entirely up to you. So ladies and gents,
yep,
that brings us to the end of this lesson. I hope you've enjoyed making your Bloom Street books with me. Get them finished, send me a photo. Even if you don't want me to put it up in the video, send me a photo anyway, because I just love to see. I love to see what you make. It absolutely inspires me. So, cats are fighting. I just give up, really. It's been one of those days. So that's the Bloom Street book complete. If you've got any questions, either message me or drop me a thread in the group. And I will see you all at 7 o'clock next Thursday when we make these really cute little quick and easy nesting die mini books, and I will put you up a resources list tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining me over the last 6 weeks, and I look forward very, very much to see your completed books. Okay, take care, have a great evening, and I'll see you next week. Bye everybody.
Oh.